once I figured out the lingo, it was about like, okay, what can I do with my money that I'd saved? And I hadn't saved a lot of money, but it saved enough to be like, hey, let's go buy a property. Well, the first thing I realized is that no one was going to lend to me because I had no bloody credit, right? So I had to go find, if I was going to get, in the pool, so to speak, I needed to go and actually do a deal, because I got to a point where I'd read enough books. I'd been self-educating about 2.5 years over the period in Australia and some 6 months in the US. And I was like, I need to go do this myself. Like, this is my money. If I stuff it up, it's mine. And I'm not going to get to deal number 10 without doing deal number 1, regardless of how it goes. And I went and did it. And now looking back on it, what I'm doing today, we have over $700 million of assets in our portfolio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your host, Dwan Twyford. I'm America's most sought after real estate investor. I am so excited that you are here with me today. As you can see, I have a very handsome man. So he is our wicked smart man today. And we're going to see what we can learn from Reed and see how he can help you in your investing, your life, your career, your health, your mental health, whatever it is. We're going to see how you can implement some of the things that you're going to learn today. Firstly, our motto at Dwanderful is people before profits. So if that's something that resonates with you, you're at the right place, it's the right time, I'm your girl, that's your guy right there. So keep that in mind. And we're going to just have a great time today. So, and also go to Dwanderful, DWANDERFUL, dwanderful.com. Opt in. I have 2 free real estate training programs for you. And for you that are new to me, I took my name Dwan and Wonderful and made a new word. And that's how we became so Dwanderful over here. So Reed, how are you today?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm excited. I like your background. It's so, it's like I have all this fluffy stuff and all the men have like shelves and books and all this stuff. It's like I have flamingos. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I should get a more serious background. But it's like, if you can't have fun in life, like really, what's the purpose?
Exactly.
So Reed Goosens.
Yep, that's it.
I said it right. I put a little line over the 2 O's so I'd say it right. And so first of all, we just want to welcome you. So you are today's wicked smart man. So we're going to ask you questions. We're going to see what you do and find out. But first, we're going to have a toast. So I am drinking live enzyme water. What do you have?
I just have a bottle of water. So
there you go. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Everybody watching, get your drink. Cheers. Welcome to the show. And everybody take a deep breath and shake up all your negativity, whatever you got going on, get rid of it so you can just tune in with us and you can have some fun. And you're going to learn a lot in the next 45 minutes. So we just kind of throw you off into the deep end. So what I would like for you to do, Reed, is tell us who you are in like 1 or 2 sentences, what you do and how we can get in touch with you. And then we're going to backtrack and find out how you became this awesome guy that's on my podcast today. So basically, we want to know, what's your deal?
Well, my deal, I'm a real estate syndicator. I buy large multifamily properties across the United States. I have a company called RSN Property Group. I have a podcast of my own, which we're going to have you on afterwards. I'm really excited about. I've written 2 books, like you've written some books. And hopefully people think of me as a down-to-earth Australian guy. I moved to the US about 12 years ago, or longer than that, 2012. And I came here with very little money and, not a big network, and I built something from scratch. And so the sort of the motto is, if an Aussie can halfway from around the world can do it, then why can't the average American? So, yeah.
There you go. And tell everyone how to get in contact with you.
Easiest way is readgoosens.com. So it's readgoosens.com. A lot of O's, a lot of E's, a lot of S's. Remember, repeat that if you need it. World of, I'm down to earth. I'm trying to give away as much knowledge as I can from what I've learned over the last sort of 15 years doing what I've done.
Nice. I always like to get your contacts, all your stuff in the beginning of the show notes. Because, a lot of people will start to listen, they'll read some notes, like, I'm going to come back later. So I always want to make sure all your information is right up there in the first paragraph. So
Love
people
it.
can find you. So you moved here from Australia. So what did you do in Australia?
So civil engineer is my background. I moved actually to the United States to chase a girl, and she's now my wife, which is this love story that was successful. But I also just came here to be an expat, like just to live in New York City. I had a great, I have an engineering background, which meant I could get a visa to be here. And really, the idea was just to come here and live for a couple of years and move home after that, and see if this chasing this girl halfway across the world was going to work out. It has. And, I started buying real estate within 6 months of being fresh off the boat. And, as I say, the rest is history. So I'm sure we'll unpack it and get through some of the nitty gritty.
Okay. So it was worth traveling halfway around the world for the girl.
That is correct. Yes.
You're married. How old are you?
I'm 37.
37. You guys are all just pops today. But I met my husband. We dated, well, not as long distance as you, but I lived in Florida and he lived in Colorado, which still, 2,000 miles. And we did a long distance for about a year and a half, got married, and we've been married 22 years.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
So people say long distance doesn't work. It's like, I don't know, work for me. I've never been happier. Yeah,
that's great. It's for each of their own, right? They think that the distance is hard. They need the physical. It was hard for a period of time. And just to wrap up that, we had a year of separation of like not being together. And we always knew that there was an end point, whether I come here or she came there. So it was, just to give it a go, see if it works.
I've never been to Australia. It's one of the places I want to go to. And I don't know. I just imagine and I'm sure in the cities it's different, but I sort of just imagine like this really great country and there's like wild animals and kangaroos. But I've watched a couple of videos where I see these spiders that are like this big. It's like, oh my God, how is there a spider? And some person put a video up with something called a garden snake or something. It's like 20 feet long. It's like, I have never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a country, it's think of like, it's got all the things like the States. So it's got, the cold mountains where you are. It wouldn't be as high as the Rockies, but, we've got everything to the humidity of Florida all the way through to the dryness of, say, Texas, right? Yeah. So you've got everything in between. But there is a lot of animals that can kill you. So just watch out, but that shouldn't stop you from going. You should definitely go. It's an incredible country.
Go to Sydney. I've always wanted to go to Sydney. I just love the way it looks. And that's one of my things. I told my husband, I said, the next year or two, I want to go and stay for like a month.
Yep, do it.
Just go hang out and see the country, because it's one of those countries I've always wanted to go to Africa, like on an actual safari though. And those are like two places I haven't been. I don't know why I haven't been, but those are two places that are on my bucket list. I'm like, I'm about to turn 65, so my bucket, I don't know how much time left in my bucket, so I need to start doing the things
hopefully I've inspired you to go, right? You make it happen. So
That's it. That'll be my deal in the next couple of years. Okay, so you do syndication. So I love syndication. So for a person that's brand new today and they don't know what that means, what does that mean?
In the simplest form, the analogy I like to use is an airplane, right? If I'm going to fly from LA to Denver by myself, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But if I go and split the costs with other people, I can fly that same route with a bunch of other people. In that same analogy, there's a captain and co-pilot, which is the sponsors of the deal, and then everyone back in coach are called limited partners, and they can participate in this flight for a fraction of the cost that would take to hire the entire plane, and they get the benefits of investing in real estate. So really, we syndicate, we pool people's money together, and we go off and buy larger multifamily, in particular, larger commercial real estate. And you get to participate in something that is at a fraction of the cost if you try to go take it down by yourself. So we've been doing this for nearly a decade. We have 24 deals that we've gone through and cycled. Not we've cycled all of them, but we've had 24 deals in the portfolio at any one time. We've sold 6 deals to date, and we have a bunch of others that we're going to try and sell. And yeah, we help investors, get involved in a space where they may not have the time or the energy to go out and do it. They want to get involved in commercial real estate. They're like, wow, I don't even know where to start. And this provides a passive income for them, and they get the benefits. And the benefits to us is that we get to partner up with people, because we're also not sitting on a pile of cash that can go off and just buy all the buildings we want. We need to partner up. So it's a partnership between both of us, and we benefit. That people get to benefit from our expertise in the industry, and we get to benefit from capital that we've been able to procure from investors.
Yeah, I have to tell you something. I have met a lot of people that do syndications. I've interviewed a lot of people. That was the best explanation I've ever heard. It makes it so simple. It's like a plane, like the captain and the co-pilot, and the passengers are the people putting in money. That is literally the greatest explanation. Because if I didn't know, I understood completely what you said. Because people are like, oh, I have this, we have a bunch of partners, we have da 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 da. And I can see people's eyes kind of glaze over sometimes when people don't explain things to a level that a new person could understand. And if I heard that, I'd be like, oh, I want to be on the plane. I want to invest the money. What do I need to do to get a ticket on that plane?
Right. That's exactly right.
That is the best, the best explanation I have ever heard.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I love it. It's brilliant. It is literally brilliant. All right. So you guys do commercial buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And all over the country?
Yeah, primarily in Phoenix, Central Texas, and the Carolinas. We'd love to do more states, but it's just bandwidth. We can't be everywhere.
No, you can't. So Phoenix, Texas, and the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are all good areas. My husband's family is from Texas, and there's just a lot. There's a lot out there. And in Phoenix, everybody loves Phoenix, and who doesn't love the Carolinas? Well, sweet mountains out there. So, all right. So you guys buy commercial buildings. So you find a big, are we looking 20-story buildings?
Yeah, no, we're talking about sort of 100 units and above. So think of garden style apartments. If your listeners are familiar with what a garden style, it's sort of like on more acreage, it might be like a 10, 15 acres, and it's multi-family, but they're 2 to 3 stories high. There's a bunch of buildings on the property. Very, very, very classic. It's not like an urban infill high rise. We're not buying high rises. We're buying more, as I said, garden style apartment multifamily. I
like that. I have one of those. I have a few of those, and they're all commercial downstairs, and everybody's renting upstairs. I'm like, these are such a great investment.
Yep. That's exactly right.
They're such a great investment, and the average person probably, I think even the average real estate investor, I don't feel could take on something like that unless they really had some experience or some money to back them. And there's so many things that you have to check when you have a building that's got some commercial and some residential. There's just so many things to it. And I feel, I tell people all the time, I'm like, syndications are a good place to put your money, because to learn it is a whole thing.
Right. Now, I will say that with syndications, you have to obviously be betting on the horse. On the jockey, not the horse, as they say. Right. Yeah. So you need to be understanding who the operator is. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm the only operator. No, I'm not. And the beauty about syndications, and it really came about with the 2012 Jobs Act, right, where investors could start investing directly into people's deals, and that allowed retail investors to, usually you just had the REITs on the stock market, and it was really much of an old boys club where commercial real estate deals weren't getting done and no one really had access to it. Today, it looks a lot different. So there's syndicators like myself who are out there. And I encourage people to go and look at other syndicators, because the beauty is you can go and diversify your investments by placing a portion of your capital, because obviously to buy that seat on the plane is a lot less than buying the entire plane. And so you can split your investment up over multiple syndicators, over multiple different asset classes, not just multifamily. There's self-storage, there's mobile home parks. Any real estate deal could be a syndication at the end of the day. It's just a form of partnership.
And what does it cost someone? They say, hey, I loved Reed. I heard everything you said. I want to work with him. How much money does someone have to buy a seat?
Minimum investments is $50,000 per deal. Typically, we buy, as I mentioned, about 100 units or up. So you're looking anywhere from $10 to $30 million purchase prices. We go and we procure the debt. So we as a sponsor go get the best debt we can for that particular property, and then for the down payment and for the capital improvements, we raise that money from investors, and that's how investors get involved, right? In terms of the structure, we typically split it. Investors own 70% of the deal, and we own 30% of the deal. And investors' money sits above us. So if we buy a deal, operate it, and sell it, and we only break even, and we get investors' money back, well, then we don't get paid. So we're incentivized to make sure that we do well, and we buy deals that are going to perform, right? Because that's how we work. So yeah.
And that's really nice that you put the investors' money first, because a lot of people don't do that.
Well, they should.
I know, but a lot of people are like, they take a little here, take a little there, and at the end of the day, it's like, oh, sorry, there's this much money for all the investors. Now, do they have to stay in for a set amount of time?
Yeah, so that's
part of 5 years, a week.
Yeah, typically our deals are between 3 and 5 years long. The sort of medium-term type of investments. But people listening to this show probably understand that real estate is a medium to long-term type of investment strategy. You're not, it's not get rich quick. We're in for 3 to 5 years, and you're in one deal, right? So it's not co-collateralized with 5 other deals, and we're just going to go and you can see it's ABC Smith Street. You can walk past it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and you're directly invested in that deal. There's 2 reasons why we do that. One is because we don't want to, the house of cards. You don't want to, buy a deal and then have another deal be predicated on that deal and so on, and it becomes very, very risky. And 2, people just like the ability to say, no, this is the deal I'm investing in. Like sometimes blind funds, and it depends on the sophistication of the investor, they can handle that. But like most people are like, I don't want to put my money in this blind fund and hope that you go find a multifamily deal that works for me. Like they get more invested in like, oh, here it is. Here's a deal in Denver, Colorado. It's, $20 million. I can see it's 150 units. It's like, I can see and feel it. And people like that, particularly when it comes to real estate.
No, they do. I like that too. And I like the fact, and it is real estate. I tell people all the time, it's like, listen, I work with a lot of brand new investors, like brand spanking new investors. I'm like, listen, this is not a get rich quick business. Yeah, you can wholesale a house and make 30 grand and put some money in your pocket, but you are not getting rich overnight.
Right.
You're going to have to learn things. You're going to have to own things. You're going to have to hold things. You're going to have to invest in things. But right. I feel like, and I've been doing it for almost 35 years, I love real estate investing. There's so many classes under the umbrella of investing that you can just do so many different fun things all the time.
Right. And that's like, and I started being a newbie investor all those years ago, right? And I remember reading the books about wholesaling, and I've done fix and flips, and I bought, $40,000 properties in, Section 8 housing. Like I've done all of that stuff. Yep. But you're right. The beauty of real estate, it is that it's a thing that is needed. It's a physical asset, and it's not going away. Like it's not like technology is going to make that we don't need a roof over our heads, or we don't need to store something in something else, right? So at the end of the day, real estate is going to be here forever. And just to your point of what you said earlier is learning, like having to learn the craft of real estate investing. And a lot of people think that's overwhelming, and it is to some extent. But if you're really going to be serious about your investments and where you put your money, then taking 30 hours over a period of six months or so to learn a little bit about where your money's going is important. So
it is important. I tell people, listen, you can never know everything.
Never.
I feel like I have a really broad spectrum of real estate investing, but even now I'll still hear about something new and go, oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's a new thing for me. That's exciting. Yep. But and people are just like, oh yeah, we're gonna buy a little fixer upper. It's like, well, do you know how to rehab? And where are you getting the money? And who's going to fix it? And if you're going to be a weekend warrior, by the 3rd weekend, you're going to be half dead, and it's going to sit there. And because people, they have the idea sounds so great. But no, that's right. You have to learn your stuff.
You have to learn your skill, and shows like HGTV don't do anyone any justice for the actual costs and time involved in was it Joan and Kip, or what's his name? Chip and Joan, or whatever. Chip and Joanne, they make it look so easy. It's like, here
So
it is.
easy.
It's
like
got,
they're rehabbing, then the 2 days later she's hand decorating, and then there's the people buy it, and it's like that doesn't never happen.
it never exists.
I love watching those shows. I love the Property Brothers, and I love watching those shows. But when they first came out, I was like, oh, these are kind of neat. But now it's like it gives people such an unrealistic
false sense of reality.
Investing is not like that. You don't go in and add $100,000 worth of work on a house in 4 weeks and sell it, and the first buyer that walks in gets it, and you make $200,000. It's like, that's not real.
Right. And you will know as you've done a lot of fix and flipping, that it's all about how you buy the property, right? If you don't make you make the money when you buy, not when you sell. And if you buy something overpriced, you may have to hold it for longer until you get your profits out. So, yeah.
But I watch them once in a while. I like the little tiny homes and like things like that I don't do. It's like, oh, that's kind of fun to watch that. And there's some guy that builds tree houses or something, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I like to watch that guy. But most of the stuff I watch, and at the end of the show, I'm just like, oh God, please don't anybody think that that's how it works.
Right. But so many people do. So many people do, and that's why they listen to this show, because they want to be more educated from you.
Yeah. Because I tell people, like, listen, I mean, I started by the seat of my pants. I had no clue what I was doing. And my learning curve was long because, I started back in the 90s. So in the 90s, we didn't even have pagers. I'm pre-pager. There wasn't even pagers. There were no cell phones. There was no internet. There was no getting everything online. You had to physically go to the courthouse, and you had to physically drive to houses, and you had to physically do everything. And then that stuff didn't exist. And my learning curve was long. But once I got it, it was like, oh, this is great. And then, I was like, hey, if I can do it, other people can do it. Let me teach other people, and let me start sharing and help people cut their learning curve. Because my learning curve was long. It was like 7, 8, 9 years before I really had a real grasp on all the different areas and what I liked and what I didn't like, and, what made quicker money versus longer term. And it takes a minute to get it around. But I feel like for people, like my dad's a good example, sitting on so much money. My dad, you should put your money in a syndication. He owned a bunch of rentals. But in the last few years, he's like, no, I want to sell everything. I want to have all my cash in the bank. It's like, but like, why? And a syndication is great for people that have the money, don't have the time. They want to invest, but they don't want to actually have their hands and be dirty on the work and things that go along with it.
That's correct. Yeah. No, and that goes back to the education part of the first step of anyone listening to this show and thinking about getting involved in real estate is, what's your why? Why are you trying to do it? Are you trying to do it because everyone else is doing it? Or are you trying to do it because you really want to diversify your portfolio? Maybe you're invested in stocks and bonds and mutual funds, or you've got cash sitting in the bank and you just think, well, I need to get my money working for me in other parts of the, of the investment spectrum. Well, that's great. Maybe real estate is one of those. And that's where you need to, I don't actually invest much in stocks and bonds. And so I'm not an expert on stocks and bonds.
I never do.
So I can't, I would be like the person listening to the real estate, this podcast about stocks and bonds, right? I don't know enough about it to go make an investment. But if I was wanting to do that, I would need to educate myself. It's the same sort of thing, same principle. We've been told to do certain things with our money for tens of years. Growing up, your parents have a big influence on how you treat money and how you have money energy. What you do with your money today is up to you, and you can decide where it goes, and that's the beauty of it. But you have to be educated. So, I think. So,
when you were 13, 14, that young Reed, that guy living in Australia, what were you doing? Like,
so my parents were both high school teachers. So very modest upbringing. State educated kid. So I went to state schools. We didn't have a lot of money. So about 13, I think it's 13 and a half. You can legally work in Australia. As soon as I could get a job, I did have a job. And it was,
what was your first job?
The first job was at a local cafe in Coolum Beach called Sorrento Cafe. And it was only, I think, 3 hours on a Saturday morning and 3 hours on a Sunday morning, helping set up the cafe, taking chairs out, washing out the wheelie bins, the garbage bins for those Americans, just doing.
I was just going to say, what's a wheelie bin?
A wheelie bin, yeah.
That's so much more fun than a garbage can. I like that.
And that was, you got me to understand the value of a dollar. And so through, that was what would have been in year 9, so 9th grade. And then after, I would sort of have other jobs in the summer holidays, laboring, doing a lot of physical labor, because as a young kid, boy particularly, like that's really the jobs that suited me best. And it sort of got me, it made me understand the value of the dollar. I remember building a swimming pool one summer. I think I was coming towards either my last year of high school or my first year of university, getting paid whatever it was, but it was back-breaking labor, and it was just something that I didn't want to do for the rest of my life. And so I obviously went to university and got an engineering degree, but it definitely helped me put into perspective what would happen if I didn't have some sort of education, right? Whatever that might look like. And it can be self-education or, the traditional education. But it was something that I knew I didn't want to be a laborer, right? And so having those experiences early really, really shaped me into who I am today. And it also helps shape me into the person that is also like, hey, nothing's too big to figure out. And it's just about, if I've got to roll up the sleeves and figure it out, then I will, right? It's not rocket science at the end of the day. So
yeah. And it is like, I was raised in Ohio, so like the Midwest. And back, I graduated high school in the 70s. So in those days, General Motors was there. So everyone got jobs at factories, and I did the same thing. I got a factory job. And after like a week, I thought, oh my God, who wants to work here till they're 60 and work for the man and have this miserable, hot, sweaty, awful laborer's job? Like, why would anybody want to do that? And it's funny because my parents were like, hey, when you get a job, you get out of high school, you get married, you have kids, you get a factory job, you work for the man, da, da, da. And that, because in the 70s, they weren't real encouraging of women weren't going to college that much yet. And so it was like, get married, have kids, get a factory job, and you'll be great. And after like 2 weeks, I just remember thinking, like, why would my parents want this for me? This is horrible. It's hot. It's awful. You're on concrete all day. It's sweaty. It's like, this is the worst thing. Why would anybody want to do this? But then, my dad and they all retired from factories. It's like, shoot, man, I have enough money in the world to have like a horrible job like that. And nothing against anybody who works in a factory. Listen, my family went that route. I totally get it. But there is such a big world out there of other things that you could do besides just working hard labor all of your life.
That's correct. Yep.
And I'm too much of a princess for hard labor.
Hey, at least you admitted it. That's
Hey, I was a rehabber for 10 years, and I was always in there hot, dirty, sweaty, but I still had my nails done and wore gloves, and it's like I was a hard worker by day and I was a princess by night. So, but right now I'm way too much of a princess for that. So, but yeah, it is. And people always have all these excuses why they can't do things. But it's like, but literally in America, you can do anything.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you bring that up. And from my international perspective, we do have people from outside the US have this, America's done a very good job at marketing itself since the Second World War of like the land of opportunity, right? And I have come here and I wouldn't be anywhere near the person I am today without making that trip on that plane all those years ago. But the interesting thing about this is that once you start scratching the surface of how things work, particularly in business and, for example, real estate, all of a sudden these blinkers come off and you're like, wow, there's actually so much other opportunity in other, not just real estate, but in other businesses. And sometimes you get too much shiny objects. But I know that like now I look at stuff back in Australia, particularly because where I'm from, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes, I had a friend who bought a steel fabrication business. I bought it from a mom and pop who didn't quite understand marketing. And he went in there and he did exactly what I do on my multifamilies. He rebranded it. He made better advertising. He brought in better people. And all of a sudden he's like quadrupled the income and made a massive profit for himself, right? And it's those things you learn by studying real estate or studying something different that we weren't taught in high school or in university that makes you inquisitive and curious to then continue to learn. And the thing that you said earlier about you're always learning, right? Where I'm don't ever think that I know it all, right? The day you do that is the day you stop learning, is the day you will die, right? And so being inquisitive and trying to find things that make you tick is really, really important. So coming back around to your your laborer story. It's not that it's being a laborer is bad. It's not. You may really love being a laborer, but then there's another way in which you could get your money working for you that's more powerful than trading your time for money. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah, and when I was rehabbing, I actually really loved it because I was buying these like ratty houses, like these hood houses, and I'm making them really nice. And I was like, I loved doing it. But then I thought, as I got in later in my 30s, I was like, but do I want to be doing this when I'm 50? So I'm like, let me learn about rentals. So then I started doing rentals, and then I was doing wholesaling, then I was doing short sales. And now my husband and I bought 20 buildings in a small town, and we're rehabbing an entire town.
Wow. That's awesome.
I have a whole town. I'm rehabbing a town. So Bill and I were sitting around, recently, and I was like, do we know anyone that's actually rehabbing a town? Like anybody? And I was like, no, I think we're the only people that we know that are doing that. But at some point, mine is expanded enough that no project seems too big.
No. And that's the beauty of pulling that thread on the entrepreneurship, right? It's not, and don't get us wrong. Like we're sitting here saying it's, can I swear on this show or not?
Say anything you want.
It's fucking hard being an entrepreneur.
Can't use the Lord's name in vain.
Okay.
Say fuck all day long.
so it's effing hard being an entrepreneur, but the rewards you get from it, like expanding your mind, expanding your curiosity into different things, to understanding how the world works. Besides all the money that we've created and the wealth we've built, that is exactly what you said. Like, I bet you back when you're 30, you had no idea you'd be able to rehab a whole town, right?
Oh.
Limiting beliefs.
Never even imagined I would speak and stand on a stage and teach people. Like, I'm just going to rehab my houses. This is fun. And I really did like it. And I, decorate them all up. It's like, this is so great. Never did I think, oh yeah, I'll start teaching. I'll stand in front of 5,000 people and teach them how to do that. It's like that. I would have been like, no. Having a podcast, no. A town, hell no. Like, but after a while, you're like, why not?
Yeah, but it comes down to allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, being comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And then that's such a skill set that, like being a laborer, you learn the skill of digging a hole or building a building or whatever that might be, that you being in that factory, you have the skill of being able to push your boundaries and then continuing to up level and push yourself into things that maybe were uncomfortable for you, like speaking on stage or rehabbing half a town. So yeah.
Oh my God. The first time I spoke, I was living in South Florida, and I started a real estate investing group because RIA groups were like fresh. Like when I started, there was not a RIA group. So in case people don't know, REIA, Real Estate Investors Association. So you can Google them. There's a RIA group in every single city in the whole entire country, but there weren't any RIA groups yet. And so this one opened up, and I went, and there were about 80 people, and I was only one of 2 women. So my first thought was like, do women not invest in real estate? Why are there all these men here and there are no women? Because I'm rehabbing. I'm literally rehabbing. And I was thinking, okay, maybe are women, do we do this? But what happened is people started to realize I was the top producer in the whole group. Like, hey, you should come and speak. And I was like, oh, that'd be fun. Well, then when the day came to do my presentation, there was like 200 people there. And I'm telling you, I thought I'm going to throw up. I'm so sick, my stomach. It's like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm sweating. I didn't sleep for a week ahead of time. I was terrified. But then every day I did it, I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. And I can teach people what I'm doing. And that's kind of fun. But I never thought I would, and I was completely horrified. I'm reading all the books on how to be a speaker. I'm reading everybody's book. I'm reading everything. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go be myself and talk about what I do, and I'm just going to do that. And then, here we are all these years later, like all the books and all the stuff that go with it. But I never even imagined I'd write a book. I was just going to fix up houses.
I will say that the one of the most powerful things that I came to the US was what you just mentioned there, RIAs. RIAs are really powerful, guys. If you're listening to this, I was fresh of 2 weeks off the boat, and the first thing I went to in New York City, I still remember it to this day, the New York NYREIA. And the beauty of this group.
I've spoken for them.
Yeah, have you? You have?
Oh yeah, a bunch of times.
Yeah, they're great organization. But what I'm trying to get is that coming from Australia, we didn't have that incredible tapestry of networking events. So if you're listening to this and you're new, I challenge you to go get on Google, type in REIA in the town that you live in or close to the big city, and there will definitely be one.
Yep.
Get your ass to it. And I get to it once a month for the next 6 months and just be a fly on the wall. And over time, I guarantee you'll meet people that you aspire to be, and you start rubbing shoulders with people that you aspire to be, and you'll start up-leveling your life.
Exactly.
Little steps like that, and don't just go once. I want you to go 6 times, 6 months in a row, and see the change in your mindset about what you can and can't achieve in life. And it's
that's great advice. In one of the books I wrote, one of the first things I said was join your local REIA.
Yep.
Everyone that comes for the first time, it's everybody's first time. Everyone that's there is interested in the same thing, and they all want to help and work together, because that's how you meet the contractor or the roofer or the hard money lender
or the broker.
Like, that's where your people are at. They're in this one space every month for 2 hours, and there's hundreds of them.
Right.
Yep. You can't say, "Oh, we're going to find anybody." It's like, I really couldn't find anybody. The first REIA group that I was like, "Oh my God, real estate group." And it was in the classified section, because that's how we found jobs back then. It was in the classified section of the newspaper. And it's like, real estate investors group is going to open up. I'm going to go to that. That sounds like fun. And now I've had 2 throughout my career. But it's finding the people, because there's no reason for anyone in today's society to have to figure it out.
Well,
too many people like you, like me, like YouTube, like TV. Nobody needs to just trial and error anymore, because there's too much opportunity literally at your fingertips.
Yep. I completely 100%.
Some people are like, "Oh, I can't find anything to work with." It's like, how can you even say that? Pick up your cell phone. There's just opportunities everywhere. So you did some of the other things too. You did some rehabbing, and you said something about some Section 8s. And
yeah, that was my first property I purchased 6 months being in America. Was an all cash property in upstate New York. It was a triplex for $38,000. I had been, I'd already been bitten by the real estate bug in Australia, and I was going to it's not called a REIA event, but a local real estate investment club that, was the only one in the whole of the country in Australia, in Brisbane. It's still going to this day. I still get emails from them. Kudos to the Brisbane Property Network, Brisbane Property Investor Network, I should say. And they're still going strong. And that helped me, find my group. And then, so when I came to the US, I was like, I need to go to a networking event. And I was just Googling real estate on meetup.com. And guess what came up? A REIA. Go there. All of a sudden, I'm being absolutely bombarded with information, American information. It's a little bit different to Australian information. And what an LLC is, what does cash on cash mean? What does IRR mean? Like, all these things. And once I figured out the lingo, it was about, okay, what can I do with my money that I'd saved? And I hadn't saved a lot of money, but it saved enough to be like, hey, let's go buy a property. Well, the first thing I realized is that no one was going to lend to me because I had no bloody credit, right? So I had to go find, if I was going to get, in the pool, so to speak, I needed to go and actually do a deal, because I got to a point where I'd read enough books. I'd been self-educating about 2.5 years over the period in Australia and some 6 months in the US. And I was like, I need to go do this myself. Like, this is my money. If I stuff it up, it's mine. And I'm not going to get to deal number 10 without doing deal number 1, regardless of how it goes. And I went and did it. And now, looking back on it, what I'm doing today, we have over $700 million of assets in our portfolio. I'm not trying to boast, but like, I've gone from I've gone from a 30,000 unit triplex to a portfolio worth over $750 million today, nearly 4,500 units across 5 different MSAs. And I've partnered with people. I've done it all off, pulled up my own 2, what they call pull up your bootstraps, or whatever it's called. Yeah. But it's
put on your big boy pants and pull up.
Yeah. But it's starting with like doing something that I could fathom and pushing myself to go do it. Right. I remember taking the Greyhound bus from Penn Station on a Saturday up to Syracuse, New York, because I was living in New York City. I'd be up there. The broker would pick me up, would do a quick tour, get back on the bus, be back down in New York, because it would be a 3.5 hour journey each way. And that's what I had to do to get started. Right now, it wasn't glamorous in the beginning, but what I have now today looks completely different. But it got me going. So sharing those little stories with people hopefully inspires them to take more action in and around what they're doing.
That's what I think. That's why I like to just have these conversations. Like, like I like to talk to people like, hey, we just met, we're sitting down, we're having a drink, we're getting to know each other. Because those are the things that inspire people. Because they can see a piece of themselves in you. They're like, I really like that Reed guy. Let me check out what he does. I've been doing this for a while. I don't know about syndication. That sounds like a good place to start.
100%. Yep.
Now, how did you jump? I know, I don't know how long the story is, but from doing the rehabs or whatever, what made you think like, you know what, I'm going to start syndications?
Yeah.
That's a jump.
Huge jump. So the critical point in there, I mentioned earlier, my background's in structural engineering. So in 2013, we relocated to LA, and I was working for an engineering company, and I was just, I just knew I had this bug of real estate. I was trying to do these little deals on the side, and I was like, and I needed a visa to be in the country. I couldn't, if I didn't have a job, I had to go home. So I was like, well, hang on, I've got a skill set here. I could maybe go work for a developer. Let's go work. Let's be surrounded by real estate 24/7. I happened to work for a structural engineering firm that was doing multifamily in Long Beach. And I said to my colleague, I was like, hey, man, you should read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad and give me all the emails of these developers that you're working with because I'm going to email them. And I did. Out of the blue, I was like, hey, I'm Reed. My girlfriend is American. I've moved here. I have background in structural engineering. Like, surely there's a job that you need me to do. Lo and behold, 2 or 3 of them reached back out to me. It's like, hell yeah, we want a project manager. You've got a great skill set. Looking back on it, that was a very, very critical pivot because I was then surrounding myself. I forget who says it. I think it was Mark Cuban says, go out and find the highest paying corporate job you can in the space you want to learn. And that is how, that is a path. And that's what I did. Yep. Now, I was still doing deals on the side. And I then got a mentor at the same time as I transitioned into this job. So working in my day job as what was called an owner's representative for ground up construction. And I also had a mentor that was helping me with the real estate syndication side. And over time, by the time I left that day job, I had already led, I think we bought 1,000 units as the lead captain and sponsor. So It was, there was a time there where it was just like working 60 hours a week at the day job and then having to try and do syndications on the side. It was tough. It was not, don't get me wrong, but I got to the point where I had made enough money on the side to having the day job was hurting my ability to continue to fly. Yeah. And then at the same time, I married my wife, got the green card, and here we are today. So
that's awesome.
And the reason I say that story is because so many people don't realize that they do have a skill set that may be useful in the industry they want to get involved with, and they can still get paid to kind of learn. Now, on the other side, I also realize that I'm worthy enough of paying someone, a mentor, to take my life to the next level. Now, I paid the cheapest mentor I could find, but it wasn't about. It was about the mentor, but it was also about betting on myself and knowing that I'm worth this money to go and invest in myself. And those two things really help lay the foundation to launch where I am today.
And I love the fact that you had a mentor. Sadly, back then there were no traveling people and work. That stuff didn't quite. It was more like Tony Robbins, like rah rah rah, but there weren't this real estate stuff. So I didn't have the luck of having a mentor. But I like the fact that you said that, because I tell people, listen, you're going to learn 2 ways, through mistakes or mentors. And I'm telling you, mistakes will cost you a lot more money. Yep. Money, time, hardship, aggravation. Maybe you make a bad move and it puts you completely out of business. And if you had a mentor, they would cut your learning curve and help you not make the bonehead mistakes that people make that don't have mentors.
Yep, that's exactly right. And look, the mentor isn't the silver bullet that everything becomes. There's still a ton of work. They're not spoon feeding you. They're not doing the work for you. Yeah. But it's the act of learning and taking the bet on yourself to say, hey, I've got this person in my corner that I can go and run an idea against. Yeah. And that's so powerful. because so many people do, and I've been to the seminars where people run up to the back of the room and they sign up for the goddamn mentor and blah, 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 blah. You still have to go and do the actual work. Getting a mentor is one step, which is good step, but then you got to go and actually do it.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes the key where a lot of people just fall short. But having the mentor, you're going to put yourself in such a better place to go do that mentally, to be able to go take that next step and say, well, I'm going to go do my first deal. So
that's it. So we're going to jump topics for a minute. I love everything you have to say. I believe in what you say. I agree 100% with all the things that you say and that you do. And I really love the fact that, and not to sound like, so cliche, but that is like literally the American dream. Someone comes from another country, and even though Australia is, obviously a very first world, civilized country, but people can come from anywhere and they can make things happen in America. It really is a melting pot. There's opportunities for every single person, every age, every race, every sex, every color. There's opportunities for everybody. But people have to take the first step and open the door.
Right.
You got to open the door.
100%. Yeah. No. To your point of like, people always ask, well, is it luck or is it, hard work? And there's obviously some luck involved, but for me, I definitely didn't come from a third world country. I will hand on heart, but there's a lot of immigrants who do, and they make big successes of themselves here in the United States because they've got their back against the wall, and my quote unquote back against the wall is like, well, if I don't succeed, I've got to go home, and it wasn't necessarily back against the wall. It was my emergency ripcord, because if that's the worst thing that happens, if I went back to Australia and got another civil engineering job, well, that's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, and so going off and then saying, well, hang on, I want to go and, scratch this itch, that go off and do it, right? Because there's no one holding you back besides yourself.
I love it. So true. Okay. So switching topics. What's your favorite band of all time?
Favorite band?
Yep. All time.
Most influential band of all time. Look, it's going to sound so cheesy. I grew up in the 90s. When I came of age as a 13-year-old boy, Eminem had a pretty big impact on my life. So, yeah.
No, I love Eminem. I mean, yeah. I was like coming of age in the 70s, but when like that first hip hop kind of music started coming out, it's like, oh my God, you can dance with this. This is awesome. Eminem, that's funny. He's actually a pretty nice guy. I follow a lot of stuff about him. Marshall's a pretty nice guy. So what's your favorite food?
Thai food.
Thai food. I love Thai food too. So when people say, oh, come to Australia and we'll put shrimps on the barbie, what does that mean?
I love a good barbecue.
What does that even mean?
it means prawns, or and it just on skewers and just barbecued. You know what I mean? So
do people barbecue a lot over there?
100%. Like most Western countries, we one thing we barbecue probably more, like a little bit untraditional, is our coat of arms, the kangaroo. We throw a slab of kangaroo on the barbie, and it's very delicious. So
you eat kangaroo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, when I go to Australia, I'm definitely eating kangaroo. I did not know you could eat kangaroos.
Yeah, you definitely can, and it's actually really tasty.
I bet it is. Any country I've ever traveled to, or any state, I always find out like what's their thing, and I eat it. I don't care what it is. I don't care how gross it sounds. I always eat it. And I've had some of the best meals of my life, like in Korea and different places. I don't even want to know what I was eating, but so delicious. I did not. You know what? I just learned something 100%. I did not know you could eat a kangaroo.
Yep.
In Florida, we eat alligator tails. So
yep. You can eat crocodile in Australia as well. There's definitely crocodile. So
alligator, frog legs, all that stuff. It's all good. And I was raised in the South. We like killed everything, ate everything. I've eaten all. If there's anything, I've eaten all of it, including brains and the whole thing. What is your favorite time of day?
Mornings.
In the morning. What do you do in the morning?
Before we just had I got a 12-month-old baby, but before that, it was a lot of meditation, a lot of taking some quiet time, and working out. That was what mornings are for. Nice.
Babies are so you have a 1-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have grandkids now. It's like, oh my God, I forgot how much I love babies. Okay, so first of all, tell us the name of your podcast again.
Mm-hmm. It's called Investing in the US.
investing in the US. And how do people get a hold of you?
Readgoosens.com, or just Google my name. I'm very Googleable.
Very Googleable. I know. I love that. All right. And so, folks, so first, thank you for being on the podcast. I have one more little thing before we wrap up. But first, thank you for being on. And to everyone that's listening, people like Reed, people like myself, we do podcasts. Podcasts are definitely a labor of love. It's a lot of work getting people, booking people, talking to people. There's a lot that goes into it. But the people that do it are doing it to help educate you in whatever their field is, or entertain you or whatever. So I think we're a little bit of like education and entertainment. We're like someone called the edutainer or something. So I think we're a little bit of both. But we're all here and we do it for you. So I ask two things of you. First of all, I want you to go to my podcast and I want you to write a positive comment and leave a 5-star review. Then I want you to go listen to Reed's podcast, which I'm going to be a guest on. And I want you to also leave him a comment and a 5-star review and subscribe to both, because our way to know that you like what you're hearing from us is for you to leave reviews, subscribe, share with your friends, so that we know that we're teaching people who are actually listening. So I'm asking you to do that as a favor to me, because I know y'all had a good time today. So, and also I want you to go to Dwanderful, DWANDERFUL, Dwanderful.com. Opt in. I've got 2 free real estate programs, and one interesting, it's called Real Estate Lingo. So I give people a free program because the lingo is not the same as in other industries. They all have their own lingo. And another one is flipping your way to a fortune. So go do that for me. Okay, so last thing. I want you to leave us with a parting word of wisdom, but it can only be one word.
One word, okay. Curiosity.
That's a good word. And I never tell people ahead of time that I want to have them, because I don't want them thinking about their word while we're talking. I want to see what word comes out of your mouth. So
yeah, I think being curious, yeah, for sure.
Okay, curiosity is a great word. So everyone that listens to Dwanderful knows that every week when our guest gives us a word, that is our word of the week. So all my Dwanderful people will be working on curiosity this week. But what we need to know is, what does that mean to you?
Yep. So it means to me, never stop being curious, right? And it goes probably to the theme of the show, what you said earlier, which was you're always wanting to continue to learn and be a student, right? Because if you stop learning, you stop growing. And I think that's your story, my story. We wouldn't be here today to be able to share that. And our stories in 10 years' time are going to look different to what they are today, because we're continuing to be curious.
I love it. All right. So folks, that's curiosity. Never stop. I could not agree more. That's a really excellent word for the week. So if you're curious about syndications, you're curious about any of it, right here we are. Go be curious this week. That's your word. All right. So thank you again. I just want to thank you for coming on. I know time is very valuable, and I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and all of us, the Dwanderful team Dwanderful people, because we're a family over here. And everybody will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And I want you to remember that the truth is in the red letters. So we'll see you next week. Ciao. Reed, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.